welcome you to number 58 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on the Status of Women. Today's meeting is taking place in hybrid format pursuant to the House Order on June 23, 2022. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. I would like to make a few comments for the benefit of the witnesses and members. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. I know that the other day we had some crazy mics going on, so I think we should be okay from that, but just make sure your mics are turned off. Interpretation for those on Zoom, you have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English, or French. And for those in the room, you can use the earpiece and desired channel. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. For members in the room, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. And for members on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order. In accordance with the committee's routine motion concerning connection tests, I'm informing the committee that all witnesses appearing virtually have completed the required connection. Pursuant to Standing Order 108-2 and the motion adopted on Tuesday, February 1st, 2022, the committee will resume its study on human trafficking of women and girls and gender diverse people. Before we welcome our witnesses, I would like to provide this trigger warning. This will be a difficult study, and we will be discussing experiences related to abuse. This may be triggering to viewers, members, or staff with similar experiences. And if you're feeling distressed, please advise the clerk or signal to us. I would now like to welcome our guests. And from the Association of New Canadians, online we have Monica Addelcater, and you can help me with that after if you don't mind, Resettlement and Settlement Services. From the FCJ Refugee Center, Shira Rossi, Coordinator of Anti-Human Trafficking Women, and Giovanna Blegovacin, who is Manager of the Anti-Human Trafficking. From the Indus Community Services, we have Raman Hansra, who is the Project Manager for Family Services, and Jackie Buckridge, who is the Manager for Family Services. And here in the room from, this is where I'm going to work on this, Gagny Gadnichik, we have Aisha Sankar, who is the Director of Program and Services. As you see today, we have 4 different witnesses. We will be doing committee business from for the last 45 minutes and listening to our panels for 1 hour and 15 minutes in total today. I'm going to turn the floor over, though, to begin to Monica. Monica, you have 5 minutes for your opening discussion or opening statement, and you'll see me wind up and give you a few seconds notice to slow it down or to finish it up. Monica, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Hello, bonjour, honorable members of the House of Commons. Thank you for inviting me here today. My name is Monica Abdelkader, and I use the pronouns she and her. I am the Director of Resettlement and Settlement Services at the Association for New Canadians in Newfoundland and Labrador. I would like to acknowledge that the offices of the association are located on the traditional lands of the Beothuk, Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit people, and we commit to the collective healing, true reconciliation, and land honoring required as part of our responsibilities towards Indigenous people. The Association for New Canadians was established in 1979 and is a leading provider of resettlement, settlement, language, and employment services for newcomers to Newfoundland and Labrador. Our mission is to settle and integrate immigrants, empowering them with the skills, knowledge, and information necessary to become independent, contributing members of our community and our country. In order to help shed light on human trafficking of newcomers to Canada, I wish to share my experience working for a legal aid clinic for refugees and asylum seekers in Cairo, Egypt from 2011 to 2012. In the course of seeking safety from countries neighboring Egypt, many fled conditions unfathomable to those of us lucky enough to be born in Canada. Time and again, we heard how migrants and asylum seekers would become entrapped and exploited. I bore witness to the scores of physical and mental scars of human trafficking, including sexual exploitation, labor, and organ trafficking. I met victims being actively trafficked, those who had survived, and some who didn't. The stories are harrowing. In countries like Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, South Sudan, and Sudan, ethnic conflict, successive regimes of oppressive governments, and mandatory conscription, along with rampant corruption, has resulted in the displacement of millions. To get to Egypt, most cross the desert on foot for days. Some succumb to the Sahara Desert or the shoot-to-stop policies of border control. But it is the gangs that are the most dangerous. Bedouin militia groups are known to kidnap asylum seekers and migrants who cross the desert for ransom and trafficking. We had cases of mothers who would come begging to our office for the $2,000 to $5,000 ransom for their children who were under direct threat of organ trafficking. And when they failed to come up with the money, we would listen live to these calls. We had fathers who would sob as they recounted tales of their daughters who had disappeared after being sold into sexual slavery. Others spoke of being held in prisons, forced to commit sexual acts and pay thousands to avoid torture and trafficking in the hands of local police. Those who made it to our office in Cairo were the lucky ones. But even with temporary or permanent refugee protection in hand, traffickers lurked at every turn. Our clients shared stories of employers taking away their documents, charging fees and docking wages illegally, at times physically restraining their movement in order to exploit and coerce them into submission. Back in Canada, when Yazidi survivors of Daesh arrived in 2017 and 2018, the settlement sector again bore witness to the stories of Yazidi women whose resilience is at times impossible to understand. The genocide of Sinjar in 2014 and losing children to sexual slavery and as child soldiers are included among some of the worst atrocities of humanity. I'm happy to share that many of our Yazidi friends and neighbors are now getting Canadian citizenship, and I've heard from many who have shared how proud they are to be Canadian. It is the pride we have for our work at the ANC, including our recent work on human trafficking in Newfoundland and Labrador, that I would also like to share with you. In 2017, resulting from the commitment of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada to resettle women and girls at risk, we saw an increase in the arrival of government-assisted refugees with lived experience of human trafficking. With funding from Women and Gender Equality Canada, we embarked on a 3-year project led by refugee women, many of whom survived the very same trafficking I previously described. As we worked at the ANC to heighten awareness with newcomers, settlement staff, community and government organizations, we gathered their experiences, best practices, and suggestions for system and service improvements. One of the key challenges this project seeks to address in its iterative learning design is that people experience or know situations of exploitation, but they don't actually know that they're human trafficking. With the results have been absolutely beyond our expectation. We saw an almost immediate increase in the identification reporting of cases of migrants actively or an immediate risk of human trafficking. We have cases of migrants, both temporary and permanent residents, being labor trafficked by employers who, like in Egypt, have taken away their documents, charged fees and docked wages illegally, and cases of newcomer spouses of Canadian citizens whose documents have been taken and they've been locked in their homes, and others who have been approached for sex or marriage in exchange for permanent residence. Cases include people from Eritrea, Mexico, Philippines, Somalia, and Ukraine. We have also received an outpouring of support from the wonderful and generous people of our beautiful province. And on February 22nd of this year, on the National Day of Awareness, we hosted the first ever summit on human trafficking, the first ever summit in the province on human trafficking, with community and government leaders in attendance. We are humbled to be entrusted by newcomer women and survivors to lead this very important work. And we're thankful to our communities for their never-ending support. With this, I want to thank you once again for your time today and for the honor of giving voice to the refugees and migrants who have made it possible for me to share these observations and experiences. They truly have made me who I am today. Thank you. Merci.
And thank you very much. We're now going to pass it over to FCJ Refugee Center. And Giovanna, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you to the members of the committee for having us here today. My name is Giovanna Blagovchinin, and I am the Anti-Human Trafficking Manager at FCJ Refugee Center. I'm joined here today by my colleague, Chiara Rossi, who is the Anti-Human Trafficking Women's Coordinator. FCJ Refugee Center is a grassroots community organization based in Toronto, Ontario. For over 30 years, the FCJ Refugee Center has supported hundreds of individuals and families, many in precarious situations, in accessing services and regularizing their immigration status. With an open door and holistic approach, we offer a unique integrated model of providing supports and services such as housing, shelter, and integration to migrants. These include migrants who may be at risk or are victims of human trafficking for both labor and sexual exploitation. Through our work supporting survivors of labor trafficking, we have recognized that women are highly represented in cases of labor trafficking. This is not a male-dominated issue. Within our cases in the past year, 40% of these have been migrant women. Migrant women are highly vulnerable to exploitation due to their gender, precarious immigration status, language barriers, and limited knowledge of their rights or available resources, which in turn results in limited access to their rights. Women are exploited in all sectors. We see women trafficked in sex work, domestic servitude, factories, restaurants, hotels, farms, and cleaning services. These women have limited options to exit their situation and are often threatened with violence or with deportation. In fact, traffickers often use their victims' precarious immigration status against them as a form of control and coercion. In addition to these barriers, we often see how women have difficulties securing safety due to inadequate integration of gender perspective and analysis in relevant law enforcement services. For these women with precarious immigration status, there are limited remedies to secure stability. First of all, even though IRCC's policy does not require victims to collaborate with law enforcement agencies or testify against their traffickers in order to receive a temporary resident permit for victims of trafficking, in our daily practice, we observe that many such TRP applications are denied when a case against the trafficker is not pending, whether this is because no investigation was initiated by law enforcement or it has been concluded in court. This is particularly true for both initial and subsequent TRPs for victims of labor trafficking, which are refused at a higher rate than sex trafficking victims. As a result, if there is no criminal investigation ongoing or the case has been concluded, she is left with no status, no justice, and very few options to safely remain in Canada. Furthermore, while some victims may be granted a temporary resident permit, there are almost no permanent immigration remedies. Current options are exceptional in nature, making it difficult for victims to be successful in obtaining permanent residency. In turn, this creates uncertainty in the lives of victims and their families, whose future depends on the unpredictable outcomes of their immigration and criminal proceedings. Finally, if granted a TRP, the victim will have barriers in accessing essential services such as housing subsidies available to domestic victims of trafficking or other vulnerable women, provincial financial assistance. Here in Ontario, this would be Ontario Works. And most importantly, she will have no right to family reunification. As a result, mothers are unable to reunite with their children in Canada and have difficulties visiting them in their countries of origin without losing their status. We therefore recommend that a gender perspective is better integrated in law enforcement and other services, that temporary status is granted to victims regardless of the existence of an investigation or criminal proceedings against their traffickers, as established in the relevant IRCC policies, that clear and consistent options for permanent residency are developed to respond to the needs of survivors, and finally, that adequate trauma-informed and victim-centered services are offered to all victims, regardless of the immigration status. We are grateful and honored to be here to be able to bring this perspective forward, to be able to bring forward labor trafficking as an issue that does impact women, especially migrant women. And we are grateful to be able to bring forward the perspective of all migrant women today. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. We're now going to pass it over to Indus Community Services. And Raman and Jackie, you have 5 minutes to share. Raman, I'm passing it over to you for the first.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Raman Hansra, and I'm the Project Director of Family Services at Indus Community Services. With the generous funding support from Women and Gender Equity Canada, our anti-human trafficking project is testing best practices to support survivors of human trafficking and at-risk populations. As we started this project, we realized that there is minimal evidence-based research exists on the needs of victims of human trafficking. Because incidents often go unreported, often we don't know the true scope of human trafficking. What we do know is that human trafficking is flourishing around us, demanding our attention and action. Working with other community partners and settlement service providers, we also recognize while there are effective services available, there are still aspects of these services that need to be improved upon. For example, there need to be cultural considerations regarding referrals to counseling, as victims come from many different cultures, and we cannot assume that individuals from all cultures would respond to the same approach. Involving the family in helping victims post-trafficking can be a great support system for many survivors. However, many family members may not have a full understanding of human trafficking, and this can cause the family to place a stigma on the victim. So it's critical for us as service providers to have a solid understanding of their unique needs and to train and support our settlement counselors and other service providers to better equip them to support survivors of human trafficking and at-risk individuals. As most newcomers and international students often access these settlement services, there is a huge opportunity for us as service providers to identify the signs of trafficking in order to connect them with appropriate services. We have recently launched a toolkit for service providers to better support them, the survivors and at-risk populations. And we are hopeful that this will help them identify who is at risk, who are the traffickers, and effective response, while also providing a detailed list of local resources. Going forward, Indus Community Services and our partners hope to be able to build on current momentum to bring an end to human trafficking in all its forms. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. Thank you.
And Jackie?
Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, my name is Jackie Buckridge. Pronouns are she and her. And to sort of piggyback on what my colleague Raman was saying, Indus's commitment to anti-human trafficking has spanned over a decade. We've been involved at all levels of government in developing a Peel-centered care pathway for survivors of human trafficking, and we're active members of the Peel Human Trafficking Service Providers Committee, which collaborates across the region for the elimination of human trafficking through education, advocacy, empowerment, and the restoration of victims' and survivors' rights. The province of Ontario attracts nearly 50% of all international students coming to study in Canada. Of the international students who choose Canada as their place of study, more than 50% are from India and China. The two main reasons that international students reported choosing Canada particularly is, number one, that they felt that this was a non-discriminatory country. And that was about 78% of those students. Number two, they felt that it was safe. And that was 78% of those students. For Sheridan College alone, international students represent over 30% of the student population. And Sheridan has over 22,000 students, which 6,800 being international. Our campuses for Sheridan are located in Brampton, Mississauga, and our partner sister region, Halton. 60% of all human trafficking in Canada happens in the GTA, in every town, every bus stand, every retail store, even in our own backyards. 1 in 3 cases of human trafficking involves another crime. In the last 6 years, police reported cases of human trafficking increased by 200%. In addition to supporting the needs of sex-trafficked individuals, we at Indus recognize and aim for the elimination of all forms of human trafficking, including forced labor, sex trafficking, domestic servitude, organ removal, debt bondage, forced begging, child soldiers, and forced marriage. So it was in 2020 that Indus expanded this commitment by leveraging our experience in supporting newcomers and international students with the generous funding from WAGE. We've developed this survivor-informed toolkit for service providers to identify and respond to foreign-born individuals being labor trafficked from a cultural lens. On February 28th, we launched our prototype toolkit to over 80 service providers in the region to further inform the toolkit, raise awareness on the issue and gaps in service, and build collaborative support for survivors. I'm very happy to be here today to lend our perspective.
Thank you very much. And I'm now going to turn it over to Aisha. Aisha, you have 5 minutes.
Here today to talk about this very important topic. Hello, my name is Aisha Sankar and I'm from Wesqueesee Peak First Nation and living in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm here today to represent the organization I work for, which is Gani Ganichek. Gani Ganichek means those who lead in Cree, and it was established in 2001 when a community of Indigenous women recognized it was time to reclaim women's roles as experts and leaders in their own social and community development. We have expanded our community programming since then based on what people need to continue their journeys. As an Indigenous-led and delivered organization that helps urban Indigenous people, primarily women, who want to change their lives, whether they want to become more educated, strengthen their families, come to safe space, rise from poverty, or gain employment. Gani Ganichuk delivers tailored programs and mentorships that help individuals get to where they want to be. Gani Ganichuk is in the community of Winnipeg's core area. We are dedicated to delivering holistic programs, services that respond to community needs. We provide Indigenous identified programs and services that focus on wellness and build on the strength and resilience of Indigenous peoples. We have multiple grassroots programs that support individual and collective growth and development in adult education, youth job readiness, and skills development mentorship programming, building cultural awareness and wellness support services. So the Mushkowzee Ikwe program, which is an empowerment project, is a 3-year community-based project geared to 14 to 29-year-old Indigenous female and non-binary people at risk of sexual exploitation, being trafficked, becoming involved with the justice system, and or living in poverty. Grounded in a strength-based empowerment framework and organizational philosophy of culture as prevention, the project works with a minimum of 20 participants per year for a total of 60 participants over the project timeframe. So due to more participation and return to the project after periods of being away, this will increase the capacity of the project with the potential to work with up to 100 plus participants over the course of the project. The project the project has 4 pillars: life skills, cultural reclamation, empowerment, and healing and pre-employment training. Implementation incorporates individualized learning in combination with online programming, small group work, land-based cultural connectivity, and customized wrapped-around mentorship. Using a continuous intake model, the project has intensive engagement knowledge transfer and service delivery approach combined with positive mentorship relationships that will strengthen those protective factors and has increased resilience, reducing negative influences such as gang involvement and sexual exploitation. The Mushkowzee program is delivered using a community resource approach. It seeks to build on individual strengths, uses knowledge-based programming, belonging, and empowerment. Cultural programming takes place throughout the project and focuses on participation in activities related to establishing or re-establishing traditional knowledge and practices, such as traditional teachings, drum making, beading, medicine picking, and participation in a variety of traditional ceremonies. Each participant has a mentor who will provide coaching and mentorship in the areas of life skills, budgeting, counseling, treatment, medical and legal advocacy, community service referral, and employment supports. This project works in partnership with Community for self-referrals and youth corrections, Female Offender Unit, Manitoba Justice to receive project referrals, and with the Manitoba Harm Reduction Network in supporting harm reduction supplies and practices. The Mushkowzee program objectives are on preventing and combating human sex trafficking and works to prevent re-victimization through building support networks and safely planning and supports recovery and healing for victims and survivors while empowering participants to regain independence and community reintegration. Grounded in Indigenous cultural histories and traditions, the project programming and ways of being provides a strong base to uniquely empower Indigenous people to heal through the victimization and trauma that they have experienced. Human trafficking knows no borders. It is crucial that we raise awareness about this issue and work together to combat it. Governments and law enforcement agencies have an important role to play in addressing human trafficking. They can strengthen laws and policies to prevent human trafficking, investigate and prosecute perpetrators, and provide support and protection to victims. So in conclusion, human trafficking is a grave violation of human rights that affects millions of people around the world. It is a complex and multifaceted problem that requires a comprehensive response. We must work together to prevent human trafficking, to protect victims, and fund more programs like the Mushkowzee Ikwe that provides assistance to victims and work towards the prevention of human trafficking. By doing so, we can help ensure that all people can live free from exploitation. Miigwech for listening.
Thank you so much, Aisha. I'm just going to make a comment. Roman, we're noticing that your background is blurred, which causes some issues for our technology here. Would you be able to unblur that as we start our lines of questioning? What we'll be doing is we'll start with a 6-minute round. We'll be starting with the CPC and passing it over to Michelle Frary. You've got the first 6 minutes.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you to everyone for being here. Great testimony to hear from all of the experience and ideas that you all bring to the table. I think it's interesting, right? Because I think it was, if I'm not correct here, I want to make sure I get everyone's name correct. Jackie. I know you've been in the business, if I can call you Jackie, first of all, sorry, I'm just going with first names. Is that okay with everyone? You've been in the industry for 23 years, and you gave a lot of stats, which I think are great, but then in the same breath, when we hear from Raman and we've heard from, some of the bureaucrats, the stats and the data just isn't reflective of the real crisis. And it's a really tough thing to solve when you don't even have the real numbers to solve this issue. We have a tent city in my community of Peterborough, Kawartha, and, housing really seems to be the crux of a lot of what we're seeing in a lot of these issues. It's a recipe for disaster. If there's no housing, if there's no supports, I would assume your risk would go up significantly when I think of some of the young women I've met who are living homeless in my community. I would ask if I could to Monica, if I could. If you think housing, supportive housing for victims would be beneficial to managing this crisis, and having supportive housing, especially for when we heard about immigrants. There was just so much testimony here. I don't want to single one person out. So if there's somebody who wants to put their hand up to answer this question first, there's just so much here because immigrants are also an issue when we were looking at housing. I see, Monica, you're nodding a lot. So I'll turn it over to you if you don't mind. I'll get you to answer that in terms of where housing fits in this.
And to your comment, a lot of us actually, we were talking in our sound check how we work together. So to any of my peers on the call, please feel free to also jump in. I think I'll answer your question in two parts. When I was working in Cairo, a lot of our cases were cases of human trafficking. And what I saw pre-arrival to Canada for newcomers is that a lot of the times these were linked, kind of back to your original question, linked to issues of abject poverty. Right? And so when people lose everything in the process and they're desperate to rebuild their lives, those who don't have the means to navigate those systems tend to end up falling victim to exploitation. And this is something that in my career, and I've been lucky to work in this field as well for quite a while, that I see time and again. When I come now back to Canadian soil and our work in Newfoundland and Labrador, I do see a lot of the same parallels. And in fact, one of the things that the Association for New Canadians has done is a feasibility study specifically around shelter services for newcomer women in our community, which are next to non-existent. So when we have victims of trafficking and survivors of trafficking in our programs, what it becomes extra challenging is how do you support them when you're trying to get them out of these situations. So whether it's labor trafficking in the remote communities of Labrador, or it is trafficking right here in the city of St. John's, the response is much more difficult to provide when there isn't that housing. But so too are the conditions that lead to that exploitation to begin with. So much like in my talk where I drew the parallels between my experience in Egypt and my experience here in Newfoundland, these parallels exist here in Canada as well. So a lot of the cases that we are seeing are at heightened risk for trafficking or become victims of trafficking because they end up turning to people who offer what seems like genuine help to get them out of this abject poverty. So housing underpins a lot of the work that we do, and housing first is often what we find is a trauma-informed approach to the same issue. A lot of this boils down to exactly that. I see my colleague Chiara wants to add, I'm going to leave her some space.
Okay, I'm going to give you space too. Sorry, I only have so much time, and there's two more. Okay, I have two more questions. So it's Chiara. If I can come back to you in 1 second, I just want to get to two other questions. I think shelters are important, but I think even permanent housing. When we've looked at other, that's really the crux of this issue, right? Really affordable housing. Raman, you had talked about minimal evidence-based research. How do you suggest we get it? What would be the best way for the government or for organizations to obtain this data, this research?
Thank you. So while we were working on this project, we realized that there is minimal evidence-based research, and because incidents often go unreported, right? So what are the reasons that like these survivors or at-risk individuals don't report about trafficking, right? So we need to dig deep. Only then I think we will be able to get some sort of evidence-based data on human trafficking. I also feel that immigration status is a big thing. Like as Jackie mentioned, that in Peel region we have thousands of international students, right? But because of their status and the barriers that exist, like systemic barriers as well as individual barriers, they often do not feel safe to go out and talk about their situation.
Thank you so much, Raman. I'm sorry, I only have 20
Thank
seconds
you.
left. And
Actually, you're down.
Oh,
You're done.
shoot.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I love you. So I know that I see hands up and things like that. We will continue with rounds, and I'm sure that your voice will get heard for sure. Anyway, I'm going to pass it over to Sonia Sudu. Sonia, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, all the witnesses, for being with us. My question is to Indus, because you're from Brampton. I'm a Brampton MP as well. So thank you, the work you are doing on the ground. Raman, you were talking about like there's international students, they don't know their rights and there's a barriers. What kind of barriers you heard on the ground?
Thank you. So the biggest barrier I would say is lack of affordable housing. It's a huge issue. So like the living conditions, like I can't even imagine like 10, 15 students living together in a basement. It's really dangerous, not just for their physical safety, but also for their emotional well-being. And then they become easy target of these traffickers who sometimes, show them these false promises that, okay, if you need any help, we can help you. All you need to do is like whatever we say. So sometimes because of their financial situation, the living conditions, lack of affordable housing, language barriers is another thing for new immigrants. That's a huge barriers. So all these barriers actually lead them to, some dangerous situations. And because of their status and because they don't know how to navigate the system, it becomes really difficult for them to go out and seek support. Thank you.
My next question's to Jackie Buckridge. In Peel, we have some strongest models for integrated services like Indus Community Services, Zonta, Sukhmani Heaven. There's many other organizations is there to help. How can we improve the coordination of services for newcomers who are the victims of human trafficking?
Thank you for your question. And I want to just also point out that we do have the Encourage Hub that is part of the Safe Center of Peel, where we are co-located as individual partner agencies to support efforts around housing, mental health, addictions, and so they're all one-stop shops. But I think for us, one of the challenges, just to sort of piggyback on what Raman was saying, is often our clients have housing, but that landlord is also their employer. So they're sort of stuck in this between, if I quit my job, then I lose my housing. If I move, I lose my job. And we saw this so much during the pandemic, where folks were being underpaid, working under the table, and really being debt bonded. And because they were international students and they had no way to earn during the pandemic for the next year, they would often, do things that were most certainly illegal and exploitive. They can't tell their families that they've been giving their landlord / boss sexual favors, because the stigma associated around that when they return home would be just too great. So I think we are doing great things here in the region. I don't have the answer, honestly. I don't know how to take care of the exorbitant tuition costs that international students have, but I know that it has to happen on a legislative level, because it if it's not enforceable, if somebody says my landlord is taking advantage of me, you're going to be told just to move. That's the closet answer. If the one thing that we did find from our research and from our work with service providers when we launched our toolkit was that we didn't have the answers, right? We went through 3 life scenarios at the symposium, and people could identify the issues quite easily, could identify strategies, but there was very limited resources to support folks that were being labor trafficked. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank
I
you.
hope it does.
Thank you. And Association of New Canadians or anybody can answer that. Like, what is the most effective prevention strategies so we can work together? And for the awareness, we heard a survivor toolkit. Anything is effective so they can know their rights. So we also heard there's 1 in 3 cases in Peel, which is a lot, and 200% increased cases. So definitely we need some effective prevention strategies. We also heard the Wage gave grant and how this grant is effective. So other organizations can work as a preventive strategies.
Yeah, lots there to unpack, and probably more than I have time to do that today. But just really like to your question, I'll start with the wage funding. The funding from Women and Gender Equality Canada has been absolutely instrumental to the work that we're doing. And I think it's worth noting that their fund for sexual reproductive health is up for to be end in 2024, and there's a call from a number of service providers to the government to see that expanded to be able to continue some of this really important work. And the theme from myself and all of the speakers today, I think, in all of our work is that it is truly survivor-led.
10 seconds to wrap it up.
That funding allowed us to amplify the voices of our survivors to be able to help them be part of the decisions. Right? And so as an organization, what we do really is to work with many of the partners at the table today, but also others, and we actually train people on human trafficking and provide those systems of support.
Excellent.
I will wrap up there. Yes.
Thanks so much, Monica. We're now going to pass it over to Adrienne. Adrienne, 6 minutes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to thank all of the witnesses for being with us today. When we look at this topic, we find out more every day, and every time we peel back a layer, we find another one, and we find hidden things that are shocking. This morning, I was with a representative who reminded me of work ongoing on human trafficking in Quebec. There are people who work with victims of sexual assault, but who also work on human trafficking for sexual exploitation. I was also with a survivor of assault, and in her case, it happened in a sporting environment. But she told me that the matter of education is important, and that schools are areas for recruitment for human trafficking for sexual exploitation. I'll ask my questions to all of the witnesses, but I'll start with Ms. Roman. You talked about language and language for victims who are coming from abroad, but have you also examined what is happening within Canada? Because the matter of language is important. There's trafficking between Quebec and Alberta, where people are being brought from north of Montreal to Alberta, and they can't access services in their mother tongue. So it is an issue for people coming from abroad, but it's an issue even here within Canada. So if you have anything to add on the importance of offering services that are adapted to the victim's language and culture.
Madame Hansra, est-ce que vous avez entendu?
Ms. Hansra, did you hear my question? If not, Ms. Abdelkader, if you wanted to answer.
I think, Raman, do you want to start?
Yes. Yes, so I think the need of culturally and linguistically appropriate services and resources is critical, especially like in this kind of work, like where individuals don't feel comfortable because of various reasons talking about their situations. If they are if finally if they are willing to go out and get support, but they can't express themselves in the language that they prefer, that's a big barrier. And I think the trauma informed approach and culturally and linguistically appropriate services are the key actually to support these survivors or victims. Thank you.
Je vais seulement ajouter que je pense que
I just want to add that I think that it is very important to work closely with Francophone communities, and in Newfoundland and Labrador, there are not a lot of resources for people who speak French. There are people coming from Roxham Road, from Haiti, they speak French, and there's an issue with services for Francophones. We work closely with the Francophone Federation of Newfoundland and Labrador, but that's a good point that it's not only an issue that new arrivals face, it's also an issue faced by Francophones in Canada. Thank you very much. Ms. Buckridge, you mentioned in your opening remarks that you work with all different levels of government in order to create a program for survivors of human trafficking. Can you tell us a bit more? Because we've seen that it's an issue that is multidimensional and it is important to work in close collaboration. But we've heard different things since the beginning of the study, and I would like to have you tell us more on what can be done. You did mention it briefly, but if you can add potential solutions in order to improve communication between different levels of government and different departments.
Certainly. So everyone can hear me okay? Great. Okay, so as part of the Peel Service Providers Anti-Human Trafficking Committee, it is comprised of a variety of different folks who are service providers across the region. But we actually follow strategies that stem from the federal government strategy on human trafficking, the provinces, and then, of course, the region, which has its own. Because Peel is a very unique community, and we recognize that it's incredibly diverse, we felt that we needed a Peel approach to a care pathway for folks that were being trafficked. And just to go back to the one piece around French inclusion and Francophone women, Oasis Centre de Femmes is one of our members that sit at that particular planning table that helped develop that pathway. We are really grateful that as a settlement agency, was our primary role when we started 37 years ago, that we're bringing that newcomer voice to it. Our wage-funded project is specific to develop a toolkit and test innovative practices for foreign-born individuals. However, we do our collective efforts around supporting individuals right here, because we know it happens right in our own backyard. Those efforts we've been doing for over a decade. I recommend strongly, I have my wage funder, and I have MPPs, and I have different levels of government at every single one of my meetings, so that we can continue to have them spread the word.
Thanks.
And really work together, because all the levels are sort of defragmented in
Thanks
all
very
honesty.
much, Jackie. We're going to
You're
move
very
on. Thank you so much for that. We'll pass it on now to Leah Gazanlia.
Thank you, excuse me, so much, Chair, and thank you to all the panelists today. My first question is for Aisha Sankar. I don't think it's any secret that I'm a huge fan of Gana Ganijik. A short break, Gana Ganijik is in my riding and provides life-saving services. And wanted to speak specifically to what you were talking about, strength-based frameworks. You use strength-based frameworks, and you use strengths from within our nations, culture, foundational to that. And we've spoken about the importance of, having a clear sense of culture and identity as prevention. But you spoke a little bit about having land-based programs. as a support for prevention. Can you share a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, being able to get any of our participants back out onto the land and reclaiming their culture, as culture has been lost with a lot of our participants, brings them back to their own self-awareness of things that are going on around them, whether it's they're being sex trafficked, whether they're getting involved in the justice system, like I had said with the Mashkauzi program. It just brings them that self-connection to themselves with their culture, and then with relatives and people that are around them as well. It gives them that self-awareness and self-worth, and it empowers them to make the right decisions for themselves that will get them on their journey to be able to grow.
Just building on that, I mean, there's no secret that we're doing a study on sex trafficking. We know groups that are most impacted, Indigenous women, particularly, and diverse gendered folks, are in that category, along with many migrant sex workers, BIPOC communities. And we know that one of the reasons why this is occurring is because of violent colonialism. Mm-hmm. Ongoing violent colonialism that's being perpetrated against Indigenous women and girls and diverse gendered folks. We know that from the National Inquiry into murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. We have the same sort of occurrences that happen even in the House of Commons as an Indigenous woman in the House of Commons. How does that place kind of a lack of awareness, lack of real response to that? How does that make young women and girls and diverse gendered folks more vulnerable to becoming sex trafficked?
Definitely does. We can bring it back to the first comment there when it's housing as well. A lot of our folks that we work with in Winnipeg's core area are homeless. A lot of them don't have anywhere to go, and if they don't have anywhere to go, they look for people that are going to tell them that they're going to help them, when really, in all realistic, they're not helping them, and they're trying to do whatever they're needing to do with them that way.
So building on that, like, I mean, I've spoken a lot about the importance of differentiating between sex trafficking, sex work, child sexual exploitation, and one of the things that I've been talking about is when you make people illegal for whatever reason. We've heard in the panel today about, citizenship, immigration status, making people illegal. You place them at risk. Is that one of the reasons why, like any sort of activities that people participate in, for whatever reasons they end up doing it, they're hesitant to go forward to police for fear of persecution? Should, for example, they participate in something like sex work, which is illegal. If something happens, like, for example, a sexual assault, do you think that's impacting people's ability to go forward to police?
Definitely. Any repercussions if they do go forward with it, if they're on the street and that person is the person that's helping them on the street to live and just get by, then there are going to be repercussions that they don't want to face for going forward to go to the police.
And we also know that, Indigenous women and girls have been hypersexualized and, demeaned in terms of, like, labels. We see that at Halloween. It's the worst, the sexy squaw, the Pocahontas, more likely to be targets for sexual violence. Would you agree that continues to be perpetuated?
It still has, yes, for sure.
Yeah. And would you agree that there continues to be a lack of response in response to the severity of ongoing violence against Indigenous women and girls in terms of any sort of sexual exploitation, a lack of response to address it?
I would agree with that, definitely.
So we just had how long do I have, Karen? Okay, so we just had a federal budget come out. Mm-hmm. I looked at the allocations for murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. Very disappointing. I know that the federal government has put in funding for Call for Justice 1.7 for oversight. But when I looked at the funding in terms of like supporting prevention, like programs like yours, why is it important to do major investment in prevention if we're going to deal with the crisis against Indigenous women, violence against Indigenous women and girls in this country?
It's very important for prevention. I'll try to wrap it up really quickly. More programs that can be out on the ground in the community for the community. You'll even get statistics that way as well. Being in the ground with people who are the ones who are needing any of the help that they're needing to resource or access resources through communities like Aniganicheck. They're able to help mend and go through all of those resources that they need to that they may not know of.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're now going to go to our next round. It starts with 5 minutes, and I'll pass it over to Anna Roberts. Anna?
Madam Chair, and thank you to all of the efforts that are put into helping the situation. I'm going to address my question to Monica, and this is probably going to trigger something, so I'm just warning everybody up front, please. So, Monica, I met with the Yazidi individuals, the people that came into my office in my constituency, and one of the stories that really touched me, and I'm going to go back to what my colleague Michelle said about housing. So, two sisters managed to get to Canada after the older sister witnessed the murder of her husband and children. They were then thrown in jail, continuously raped, and the food that they ate was the remains of their family. I say this because it really impacted me. However, they were very happy that they were able to come to Canada. Here's the problem. They came to Canada. There was no housing, no medication, no mental health services to help them emotionally get through what they had witnessed. So we're promoting this, and you're a champion at this. You obviously care. But how can we help these people, help the Yazidi people come here, and then, we make these promises and they have nowhere to live, no medication, no help, no counseling. It just, it's like, when I think about it, we're taking them out of the fire and putting them back into the frying pan. How do we change that?
So there are a lot of services that the Yazidi community have been provided when they were resettled to Canada. So for those of you who don't know, there was about 1,100 Yazidi that were resettled to 4 communities across Canada: London, Ontario, Toronto region, Calgary, and the fourth escapes me. But these communities, Calgary and Winnipeg, these communities do receive funding from Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada as part of the Resettlement Assistance Program. And through those programs, we are mandated, so at the Association of New Canadians in St. John's, Newfoundland, we provide this service here, and we are mandated to provide housing assistance and linkage to the public health, or to the provincial health system. When the Yazidi arrived, the trauma that the Yazidi had experienced, and I was part of one of those teams that responded in one of those communities, it was unlike trauma I have ever seen. I've been working overseas and in Canada for almost 20 years now. And I'll be honest, when they came, it was very even traumatizing for us with experience in the sector to hear their stories and to respond to their needs. And rightfully so, as you said, there was definitely a bit of a lag in our response at the outset, as we as a system of settlement service providers both understood and come to understand the severity and the complexity of their traumas, but also developed the appropriate mental health response. What we found in delivering mental health services to newcomers, we did a very rigorous research project, and we found we introduced mental health screening at multiple milestone and touch points throughout their journey. And consistently, we find that newcomers resettled under the RAP program, or the Resettlement Assistance Program, are really only ready for mental health services at the 8 months
Monica,
mark. And I believe. Yep.
I want to get to my point because I will be hosting another meeting with the Yazidi families that I've met. And here's my question. We have, the government is going to open up the immigration to 500,000 people. We don't have housing. How are we going to make these false promises to individuals that I think as Canadians, we want to help people. And it breaks my heart to know that they're coming here and they're either in shelters, some of them have to live on the streets, they don't have the support, they don't have the housing, they don't have the medication, they don't have the treatment. How do we change that when we make these promises to them when we don't have anywhere to house them?
20 seconds to reply.
Yeah, definitely. So under the Resettlement Assistance Program for government-assisted refugees, we are mandated to provide that housing, and IRCC does fund the temporary housing of those communities. So when we're resettling refugees, we tend to be really good. Where we're not really great is with refugee claimants. And my colleagues at FCJ could tell you for days, and so too now in Newfoundland with our experience with the recent arrivals from Roxham Road, that those groups are some of the groups most at risk for a lack of affordable
Do
housing.
we have stats
Groups
on
where
that?
there's
Yeah, thanks very much. We do have to move on to the next round of questioning, so that's okay. I'm now going to pass it over to Jenna Suds. Jenna, 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to all of our witnesses for being here with us today, but more importantly for the incredible work that you are all doing in your communities and across the country. I think I will start first with Monica. And first, I just wanted to share some good news, Monica. You had commented about the Sexual and Reproductive Health Fund. I'm happy to share it was in the budget yesterday for 2024, so you will see it there, which of course is critical funding and great news. I wanted to dig in preparing. I had done a bit of research about your organization and had seen on your website that you've opened a number of satellite offices, or satellite locations, I should say, in order to accommodate the increase in immigration and refugee entry that you've seen. And I'm wondering if you can elaborate for us what are some of the changes or the trends that you are seeing on the ground there?
Yeah, this is a really great question, and it's something that is a really special part of our work at the Association for New Canadians. So as you rightly mentioned, we are located in 9 communities, including 8 communities that are outside of the urban core. And those communities, those offices are sometimes in really more remote communities like Fort Howe, Labrador City, which are, part of mainland Canada as opposed to the island of Newfoundland. And so between all of our offices, we more or less cover the entire geography of the province. And as you mentioned, what we are actually seeing in those offices, particularly for this study, is that the farther and more remote the newcomers travel, the greater risk, immediate risk they are for human trafficking. In fact, of the cases that have come forward since we started the WAGE project, only one is located in the urban center of St. John's. And so we really found that this is actually the current phase of our project is going to these remote rural communities. And we've actually seen this quite a lot with the Ukrainian folks that have arrived in our community, where they get offers both from overseas as well as from inside the country. And then they travel to these communities. And then when they get there, the offer wasn't as expected, or the behavior of the employer isn't as expected. And in fact, sometimes we even struggle as an organization to get employers to come forward with the details of the employment offered to newcomers. And some of the more significant cases, even the non-Ukrainian cases, are happening in places like Labrador. And some of the information that is being shared with us includes concerns from newcomers of involvement greater than just the employer, from people like police and from local people in power. And these cases are extra disheartening because of how remote they are. They are so removed from that. And some of my colleagues had mentioned, and a member, Gazan, mentioned quite beautifully about the status issue. And a lot of the cases we're seeing, they're terrified of coming forward, but also are missing information about status and how to regularize those pathways. So like Giovanna mentioned from FCJ, it's actually the issue is not so simple as getting a TRP from IRCC when there's no clear pathway to how you reach reach to the permanent residency, or how do you kind of share your story and get that permanency without having to file criminal charges? And that is, in fact, the most common thing we're hearing is the fear people have, even when we have incredible colleagues here from the RCMP, from IRCC, telling them they're going to be safe. Doesn't matter. They're still not coming forward with these cases because ultimately the pathway doesn't really exist in actual practice, even though it's there in theory.
Incredible. Thank you very much for that answer and those insights. Very helpful in our study here. I have a minute left, and I'd like to go to, I believe it's Raman from Indus Community Services, who referred to the need to ensure cultural considerations in referrals to service providers for victims. And I would love if you could take my last 30 seconds here to expand upon what that needs to look like.
Thank you. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, that cultural considerations are the key. For example, like sometimes we feel that one approach can fit all, right? One size fits all. But I think like when we are working with survivors, it's important for us to remember that these people are coming from different backgrounds, they belong to different cultures. So like what can we do as policymakers and as service providers to actually make them feel safe and heard?
Perfect.
Right? So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're now going to pass it over for 2.5 minutes to Adrienne LaRoche. Adrienne?
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask you a question, Ms. Abdelkader. You mentioned the Roxham Crossing, and we started examining status. What we've heard with the Roxham Crossing is the importance of health services, housing services. All of these things are important, but the other issue is that when people aren't regularly supported, it is easier for them to lose their status, and they become vulnerable, and it's impossible to find them, to offer them those services. So what is the impact on human trafficking? And these people arrive and are either lost or are poorly welcomed, and then they're found in a vulnerable situation.
I would like to give my time to Giovanna and Chiara. Giovanna and Chiara with the FCJ Refugee Center are really experts on the question of claimants. They advise us at the association on our human trafficking project. But at the Association for Canadians, we just started working with claimants, whereas FCJ has more experience.
Thank you, Monica. Without status, traffickers or employers or abusers, anyone can exploit the victims in ways that, because they know that they can't access any services, they can say that if you don't do this, if you don't do this for me, if you don't work under these conditions, that we will report you to immigration and you'll be deported. And so people become dependent on their jobs, they become dependent on their traffickers, and they usually are dependent on them for also housing as well, as was mentioned several times. And many services and supports aren't available to people without status. Even if they do gain some status, there's still limited services that they can access, like financial assistance. A lot of housing subsidies are not available to people with temporary status. And so that leaves them in a situation where, again, they may be vulnerable to exploitation, and traffickers are using the housing crisis to their advantage.
Thank you very much. We're now going to pass it over to Leah Gazan for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair. I have another quick question for Aisha. I put forward a bill for a guaranteed livable basic income, Bill C-223. We're talking about sex trafficking, protecting women, girls, and diverse gendered folks from being sex trafficked. Yes or no, would a guaranteed livable basic income be a tool of prevention?
Definitely.
Okay, thank you so much. Just want to move over to the INDIS. I'm a former post-secondary educator. I know many international students, first of all, they're paying high fees and they get no support. It was just on the news yesterday. I have put forward a bill for a guaranteed livable basic income. Would a guaranteed livable basic income be a protection for women, girls, and diverse gendered folks from being sex trafficked? My bill includes temporary foreign migrant workers, refugee claimants. It's very inclusive. Anybody over at the age of 18. Yes or no?
Yes, for sure.
Just by way, just because I don't have a lot of time, wanted to ask a question of the Refugee Center. I know that your organization advocates for open work permits for migrant workers in Canada. I had mentioned the dangers of making people illegal, and I think we've had several examples today of why making people illegal, why I support Status for All is a necessity to keep people safe. Why is it important to, or why are open work permits important?
Open work permits are important because the alternative is an employer-specific work permit that locks someone in, ties someone into one employer and with one role, and that employer can use that power advantage to exploit the worker. They know that the worker can only work for them, and they're relying on that job for status in Canada. And so they can then say that they need to work under very abusive conditions and no domestic worker would ever work in, and that worker has very little ways to be able to change their employment. It's a challenging process. In a very lengthy process, and so many workers will continue to work for the abusive employer simply because they don't have any other choices.
Thank you.
And so if they had an open work permit. Okay.
Thanks so much, Giovanna. Now we're going to go to our very last, and what we're going to do it to Manuela and to Michelle. I'm reducing you both down to 3 minutes. Sorry, Manuela, I see you online. Michelle, passing it to you for 3 minutes.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you guys. Great information coming out. I wanted to ask Jackie this question, and I never got to it last round. Jackie, it says in your bio here that you've been working in this, not necessarily in human trafficking, but for 23 years. I guess what I would love to know, and if anybody wants to jump in again, how have you seen human trafficking change in that time? What's different now than it was before? I mean, I don't remember, I'm 43 years old, but I don't remember hearing of human trafficking the way that we hear of it today.
So it's actually 26. I've been at INDIS for 26 years, but I've been in anti-violence prevention for longer than that, not to age myself. So it's all forms of violence for me need to be eliminated, and any footprint that we can take. I will tell you that language has changed for sure. Legislation has clearly changed to a certain degree. I know that women 20 years ago would not come forward because they knew that they would be arrested and they would be charged. Now we're holding the actual traffickers and the Johns accountable, and a woman cannot be charged if she is selling sex. You can only be charged if you buy sex. So that has changed significantly. I think there's more of a collaborative effort. We as service providers are more willing to support individuals with very complex needs. I think we were very structured in the way that we did support 15, 20 years ago. I'm hoping, and I'm saying this hope in quotes, that we are more collaborative in the way that we do things, and that we do have more funding and continue to get funded for programs, and that we continue to change systemic barriers for folks that are being trafficked.
Thanks so much for that. I think it's Kiera. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. You had wanted to chat. You had your hand up in that last round of questioning I had, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts.
Oh, thank you. So I just wanted to endorse what Monica was saying in terms of housing and services. Like from FCJ perspective, we work for a lot of people that don't have status or have temporary status, and this is a huge challenge, added challenge to accessing services like housing. Even when some of the services are available for domestic victims of sex and labor trafficking, these same services are not available to people on temporary status, even when we get the TRP. So this access to services is essential, and it would help if this was granted to victims, regardless of their status as well.
Thanks so much, Kara. I'm now going to pass it over to Emanuela online. 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to begin by thanking all of our witnesses for the incredible testimony that we've heard today. Very informative, and it's definitely going to help shape the study. I would like to ask, I guess I'll start with Giovanna. If you can, I know you spoke earlier about the VTIP TRV, and you said that many of the victims are refused a VTIP TRV. Meanwhile, we heard earlier this week from IRCC that, this was a pretty good avenue that people can take if ever they are being trafficked, or if it's found out that someone without status is being trafficked. Can you speak a little bit to that point and maybe explain, in what kind of circumstances these people are being refused? And also, do you have any stats, or can you access any stats on how many victims have been refused? Even though one is too many, I think it would help us to know, more specifically how many people this is happening to.
Sure, thank you. So the temporary resident permit is available to someone who's out of status, who is a victim of trafficking. Essentially, at first, when approved, if approved, you would be approved for 6 months, a short-term TRP, and then you would apply for a subsequent one, which is normally granted for a year. The IRCC's policies state that they don't need to speak to law enforcement. There doesn't need to be, they don't need to testify in court to be approved. But what we're finding is that we're not just making it up because it states this in the refusal letter, is that that the case has been concluded, there's no court proceedings, and they're not needed to be in Canada anymore. And so they are refused for the temporary resident permit on that basis, which is confusing for the applicant and is confusing for us as well when we're submitting these applications. I don't have the statistics in front of me to state how many people are being refused, but from our cases, I can say that we do have large cases that see 40 plus victims who might have been approved all for the short term TRPs because there was an investigation, but now their subsequent ones are all starting to be refused because the case has been concluded, or in the court proceedings are no longer ongoing.
30 seconds.
Okay. Thanks. Good. That's good to know. I guess another question that I have in 30 seconds, though I don't know if you'll be able to answer. You had mentioned that people cannot reunify with their families. Of course, that's only offered to PRs. So what is it that you suggest, like in a straightforward recommendation, that be done for victims of trafficking?
Allowing applicants of temporary resident permits to include family members, or allowing them to having a quicker and much more accessible pathway to permanent residency for victims of trafficking so that they can bring their families. Right now, they need to have a TRP for 5 consecutive years. This is very difficult, very challenging, and almost never happens, at least from our perspective, from our experience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This is going to wrap up our panel, our first panel for today. I would really like to thank all of the witnesses. You have brought so much to us. If there's additional information that you wish to send in, statistics that you had received, please feel free to. I know that our analysts love when I say, send everything you got. So what we're going to do is we're going to suspend. We're going to be going in camera. So for Emanuela, we need to go to in camera. So we will suspend. I will ask that anyone who should not be in the room for in-camera meetings exits, and we'll reconvene as soon as possible.
you.